Welcome back to the Chelsweets kitchen. Today I'm making an Oreo overload cake. So this cake is perfect for anyone who really likes Oreos, or chocolate for that matter. So I've made red velvet cake layers, which I've added crushed Oreos to. We're going to be frosting it with just a classic American buttercream that's vanilla flavored, just to keep things a little bit simple, not to go too over the top. And we're going to be filling in between each layer with some crushed birthday cake Oreos. First I'm going to go ahead and focus on assembling the cake, and then we'll get going on the decorations. I always begin by adding some buttercream to my cake base, and this just helps us secure our cake layer to our cake base to make sure that it doesn't slide around. So I'm going to go ahead and center my first cake layer on my cake board, and these are 8-inch cake layers. So next we're going to apply a generous layer of our American buttercream to our cake. And I like to begin by just smoothing it out with my offset spatula. And first I kind of work it to the edges. And once I feel like I've gotten all the way to the edge, I like to just kind of spin it while I apply pressure with my offset spatula. And if you see any areas that you think need a little more frosting, or if it's not level, you can always add a little more and try again. I'm going to now add a bunch of crushed birthday cake Oreos. Since these are birthday cake Oreos, which are filled with sprinkles, we're also going to add some more of our own sprinkles, just to give a little bit more color. So now we're going to add another layer of our buttercream. And this is going to be a pretty tall cake since it's going to be 4 layers. If you don't want a cake to be this big, or you don't need to feed too many people, you can always omit some of the cake layers. You could half the recipe and just make one cake that's 2 layers. There's tons of modifications you can do to fit your needs. So now that we again have smoothed our buttercream, we're going to add some more Oreos and repeat with our third cake layer before we top off our cake. So now that we have our layers stacked, it's time to add our last layer to the top of our cake. And when I do that, I always like to flip my cake layer upside down. And that's because you know that the bottom of your cake layer is always flat since it baked against your pan, and it makes it easier to get nice sharp sides when we're frosting. So now that this is on here, I'm going to go ahead and press down to get all those Oreos and sprinkles firmly embedded in that buttercream. This will also help get out any air that might be trapped in between our layers. Alright, so it's pretty good. So now we're going to go ahead and smooth out our sides. So when I frost a cake, I like to add a lot of frosting to the top and kind of smooth it out there and then work my way down the cake. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to go ahead and again, using the same technique as we did between our layers, just kind of work it around the edges of the cake. But then I'm going to kind of spin it, and you're going to have a little bit of frosting overflow, and that's okay. We're going to use that in just a minute. So I like to scrape off any excess and then use it right on the sides. So as we do this, you might get some Oreos or some sprinkles in your frosting, but that's totally fine. That's actually what we want. This is our crumb coat. So it's going to trap in any crumbs that might be seeping out from between the layers, and that's what we want because we're going to get all of those locked in with this layer of frosting, and then we're going to apply a second layer of frosting after to get a nice smooth finish. So now that I think that's pretty smooth, I'm going to go ahead and get my cake bench. I'm just going to apply an even amount of pressure here and make some long sweeping motions. And the idea is just to kind of level out the frosting on the exterior of the cake. So for the top, I'm going to go ahead and take my cake bench. I'm going to apply a very light amount of pressure, and I'm just going to drag in towards the center. And you can scrape off your excess buttercream as you go off your cake bench. And now that our crumb coat is complete, we're going to place this into the freezer for about 5 minutes until the frosting is firm to the touch. Using the same technique as before, we're going to apply our second layer of buttercream using an offset spatula, and then we're going to smooth with a cake bench. After placing the cake in a large baking tray, I'm going to gently add crushed Oreos and sprinkles onto this cake using a really light touch. And when you're doing this, you want to be really careful not to press too hard so that you dent your frosting. You just want to press light enough to make sure that the Oreos and the sprinkles are adhering to the frosting. To help give the cake a smoother look and a smoother finish, I'm going to use an acetate sheet and gently apply pressure around the cake. And this is going to embed the sprinkles and Oreos deeper into the frosting so that the edge looks more finished. Next, we're going to add on some chocolate ganache strips. If you want to see a full tutorial for all the tips and tricks that I use to add ganache onto a cake, you can click the link above. Using a Wilton 1M tip, we're going to pipe some chocolate and vanilla buttercream on top of our cake. The last step is to add some birthday cake Oreos around the base of the cake, and I'm going to secure them using a swirl of buttercream. And just like that, our Oreo overload cake is complete. The recipe for this cake and buttercream are up on Chelsweets.com, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to click the like and subscribe button below. If you want to see more of my cakes, you can also follow me on Instagram at Chelsweets. Thanks so much for joining me tonight, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon.